The other day at work, we got into a conversation about AI. We're a small company, and it feels like every large company in the world right now is waving the AI flag, watching their stock price skyrocket. And that begs the question, how is AI actually helping them? And more importantly, could it help us grow and become more profitable? Or is this all just like a valueless bubble? So I picked up this book, and I want to start with page 12, which says, "This is not an AI book. It's a leadership book," but it talks about AI on every page. And I think this is a topic that can help everybody. Before we get into that other leadership stuff, and trust me, the leadership stuff is the good part, we need to get on the same page about what AI actually is. Because most people throw the word around without really knowing what they're talking about. Myself included, before reading this book. Geoff Woods explains AI as Russian nesting dolls. The biggest doll on the outside, it's layer 1, that's artificial intelligence. AI, the broad term defined as machines doing things that normally require human intelligence. Now crack that open, inside is layer 2. You get machine learning. This came around 2005. It processes structured data with a if this, then that logic. If I receive an email from Cameron, then move that email to my folder labeled Cameron. Or another example is Netflix's recommended for you section. If I watch rom-coms, Netflix has automated recommending more rom-coms to me. So you crack open machine learning and then you get deep learning. This was introduced around 2012 based on neural networks, which are layers of connected nodes, millions of them. Kind of like a dumbed down version of the literal neurons in your brain. Face ID uses this on your phone. It scans your face, maps mind-bending amounts of data points, like the distance between your eyes or between your nose and mouth, and then unlocks your phone in less than a second. Now, inside deep learning, you've got generative AI. This came around 2017. Billions of nodes now at work. It learns from text, music, videos, images, and then it creates from all of that. There's that quote, "Good artists copy, great artists steal." Generative AI steals from 100 million sources and calls whatever it made original, which sounds cooler than it is, but also kind of is cool. Now, obviously, this is a big Russian doll. We've got 2 more layers, and the next one is on top of the world at the moment. And it's large language models, or LLMs. This was popularized around 2022 with ChatGPT, and then Claude, Gemini, Perplexity. This is the doll that this book is actually about. LLMs generate text and understand context. Like it knows I went to the bank to deposit money doesn't mean a river bank. It's a financial bank, which seems obvious to us, but is genuinely hard for machines. Shout out to my high school math teacher, Mr. Woodman, who said, "Computers are dumb, they only know what you tell them." And that's still true even at this level. I think it'll always be true. And then the tiny little last doll that I think every major company is trying to access right now, AGI, Artificial General Intelligence. It's theoretical, it's still in the future, so not really relevant to you or your business yet, but it's good to be aware of. So regarding LLMs, one thing that stuck with me from this book is that AI is not an oracle. It's a prediction machine. It's not magic, it's just very fast, very sophisticated pattern recognition. Input, processing, output, learning, repeat. That's it. So now that we know what we're actually talking about, the question is, why aren't more people using AI strategically? And the answer is fascinating. There was this guy named John D. Rockefeller, founder of Standard Oil, once the wealthiest man on planet Earth. Not kidding. And this is the part nobody talks about. He's one of the architects of the American public school system that we still use today. You see, in the early 1900s, the US was shifting from agriculture into industry. Rockefeller reportedly said, "I don't want a nation of thinkers. I want a nation of workers." In 1902, he established the General Education Board, investing $1 million, the equivalent of 37 million today, and in the following decades, over 100 million more was poured into reshaping American public education around rote learning, punctuality, and obedience. Sit down, be quiet, memorize the facts, get rewarded for correct answers. Basically, school. It sounds familiar to me. That was the system I was raised in 100 years later. In fact, younger me always said, "I hate school, but I love to learn." And I have a very unique journey with school, but that's another story for another time. That task-focused mentality carried straight into the workplace through something called Taylorism, the dominant industrial model. The core idea, managers, the people furthest from the actual work, do all the thinking. They do all the planning, all the vision casting. It's very top down. And the workers, the people whose hands actually touch the products every day, they're in the work. They're there to execute orders. Don't think so much, just do. This is the industrial way. Now, enter someone most people have never heard of, W. Edwards Deming. Deming spent his career in the mid-20th century arguing that this entire industrial framework was a disaster. He said the workers closest to the work are the actual experts, not the suits in the boardroom. Management's job shouldn't be to cast top-down grand decrees and enforce compliance. It was to empower the people on the floor with better culture that has them innovate and improve the system themselves. Because those people on the floor would understand the work the best and could solve problems the best. He was also fiercely critical of the American school system, the same one Rockefeller helped build. Grading, ranking, knowing an answer. Deming said all of it destroys the child's intrinsic motivation to learn, and people should learn how to find an answer and how to innovate. Here's the part that's almost funny if it wasn't so painful. America largely ignored Deming. Japan hired him, and Japan's post-war manufacturing boom, which eventually crushed American competition in cars and electronics, is largely credited to Deming's philosophy. We exported our best thinking about empowering workers. We sent it away to another country while keeping our own people in the Rockefeller model. And here's why this matters right now. The Harvard Business Review surveyed 10,000 senior leaders. 97% said strategic thinking was the #1 most important leadership behavior for their organization's success. And yet our entire education system, still largely built on Rockefeller's model, grades you on your ability to have the right answer, not on your ability to search for one or innovate. But in 2026, with the help of AI, there's an open door to a brighter future for education and for work. We know more than we ever have. Now it's up to us to choose the right direction. Okay, quick moment before we get into the how, because I know some of you are thinking about the fear side of all this. Let's address it real fast. The fear has many faces: losing your job, privacy, having relationships with machines instead of real people, or even bringing the world to an end. Here's the real risk, highly relevant today, that Woods identifies in the book. If you treat AI like an oracle and just ask it for answers, you will stop developing your muscle for reasoning. Don't make AI the thought leader. Make it your thought partner, keep it in its lane, and keep yourself in the driver's seat. Otherwise, you actually do risk becoming replaceable. A stat that kind of wrecked me: Woods interviewed 200 executives. 100% said AI is the future. 100% said that their company would adopt it. Less than 5% had done anything about it. And this is the quote that I think we should pay attention to. AI won't replace you. Those who harness AI will replace those who won't. People who used AI had a 40% increase in the quality of their work. They completed tasks 25% faster and tackled 12.2 times more tasks than those without it. So I get that change is scary. It might make us feel fear, but throughout history, you've got the printing press. Before it, knowledge was reserved for the clergy, royalty, wealthy landowners, and scholars. The church was so scared of it that Pope Alexander VI literally wrote that they needed to maintain full control over the printers, which is giving a lot of "I don't want a nation of thinkers" energy. There's also the assembly line, the internet. Every major shift has scared people, every time. And every time, the jobs transformed, and the working people needed to transform. Loads of new jobs were invented. 6 out of 10 jobs that exist today didn't exist in 1940, like software development, data scientist, content creator. A creator that I follow named Karen X. Zhang put it simply: AI plus a person is better than AI alone. AI on its own won't outperform you, but AI partnered with someone would outperform someone not using AI at all. So we need to be very honest with ourselves about whether our job is one that can be replaced, or if we will be enhanced to do our job even better because of AI. And I know that there are many workers that are heavily needed still in nursing and in other practices. In fact, that could be a Google search that you do next to help alleviate some of those fears. What industries need workers the most? So how exactly to use AI the right way? That's the entire second half of this book. And we're back. The real game changer isn't using AI to write better emails. It's using AI to elevate your strategic thinking. There's 2 roles in your AI relationship. You are the thought leader. AI is the thought partner. As the thought leader, you set the direction. You hold the vision. As your thought partner, AI does so much. It helps clarify your thinking, challenge your biases, structure your communication, analyze data, and really, it can help narrow your focus. Two quick stories that made this click for me. When Brian Niccol was CEO of Chipotle, I would listen to his quarterly earnings calls, and he openly admitted they weren't 100% sure how to use AI yet. I think this was 2024 or 25 sometime. But he was reading books on it. And I loved his zero ego about being ignorant. And in his 6 years as CEO, he helped double Chipotle's revenue and increase profits 7 times. When Satya Nadella took over CEO for Microsoft in 2024, he wanted to shift from a culture of a bunch of know-it-alls to a bunch of learn-it-alls. Microsoft's market cap more than tripled. And the quote I keep coming back to all the way at the beginning of this book on page 9 is, "I believe with the right leadership, you can create a world where the majority of your people's time is invested in high-impact priorities, aligned with their strengths, supercharged by AI." That's the goal. And these successful CEOs were basically doing this before the AI craze that we're in now. They had all of it down, minus the supercharged by AI part. So Niccol and Nadella were tackling high impact priorities and leveling up the individuals in their companies. Hormozi was talking about this in the months and years before he started making any content about AI. And putting it simply, everybody has a better advantage of doing what the best CEOs were doing years ago. We've got an advantage of bettering ourselves now because of AI. It's not AI doing your thinking for you, and it shouldn't be. It's AI freeing you up to do more thinking, better thinking about things that actually matter. But there's a specific framework for how to do this, and this is where it all gets really practical. Real quick, if you're getting value from this, please hit subscribe. I upload a new video every Friday, productivity, finance, wealth building, and I think you'll like what's coming. Okay, back to it. Most people use AI badly, and the book offers 7 ingredients to better prompting. Not every prompt you'll have to use all 7 of these, but you'll probably use a different mix, whatever the mix is. It's better than simply asking a 1-sentence question and expecting AI to deliver a perfect answer. Ingredient 1, describe the task. What do you want it to do? 2, give context. The more it knows, the better it can respond. 3, assign a persona. It could be a CEO, a marketing expert, an executive coach, or your most critical client. Whatever expertise you want it to emulate, put that in. 4, specify the requirements. Do you need it to generate a list, a table, Excel, or PDF? 5, establish the limits. What are the things that it should avoid? 6, explain why. Help it understand your reasoning. And 7, ask AI to interview you. Let it pull information out of your own head. That last one significantly changed my relationship with AI. Instead of trying to explain everything up front to it, you just say, ask me questions. And it does. It interviews you, and suddenly you're responding to it, and your brain is thinking about things you didn't even realize you thought. Now, I believe people don't give their AI a persona often enough. And this is where chats can get really valuable. So if you wanted your AI to interview you, you could have it take on the interviewer persona. Start your chat with something like, I would like you to act as a thought partner by asking me one question at a time. Here's the situation. Give it the context. Here's what I'm trying to solve. Give it the problem. Please help me think through potential solutions. Or another really good persona I like to use is the challenger. And this is one the book says is the most underused value. It's meant to act as an impartial judge. You could say, I believe, or I have this idea of, insert the thing. Please challenge my assumptions and biases so I can better understand alternative perspectives. This one, I think, is life-changing. A quote he goes back to so many times in the book is, it's tough to read the label when you're inside the box. So you might have expertise based on your role and your experience, yet your perspective is limited. Assigning a persona gets you outside that box to see how others might see things. You're the expert, but you might not see the beginner's point of view or remember the kind of questions that you were asked when you were starting out. But you could have AI take on the persona of a beginner, asking those questions and reminding you of how to teach really effectively. The book also keeps coming back to one idea above everything else. Questions shape your future. This is from Keith Cunningham. You might actually know him without knowing that you know him. He's the real life person Robert Kiyosaki based the Rich Dad character on in Rich Dad, Poor Dad. He's also the author of The Road Less Stupid. And in his book, he says, the key to getting rich and staying that way is to avoid doing stupid things. I don't need to do more smart things. I just need to stop doing a few dumb things. I need to think. The idea that I need to stop doing dumb things, that I needed to think, which kind of goes hand in hand with slowing down, and that this might be more important than starting to do more smart things. It's very interesting to me because I've known about the rich dad's story, about losing $100 million, and it's highlighted in Geoff's book and lots of other books. And he didn't lose all that money due to a lack of smarts or a lack of work ethic. He lost it because he was asking the wrong questions. And that's the whole point of this section of the book. The quality of your future is determined by the quality of your questions, not so much your answers. Because a bad question, one that's too narrow or too leading, or doesn't challenge your assumptions, that question will produce a perfect answer to the wrong problem. And you might not even notice until it's too late. Now, there are specific biases that make us bad at asking questions in the first place. There's confirmation bias, which is basically just a yes man living in your own head. You go into a decision already knowing what you wanted to do, and you don't open yourself up enough to the opportunities of being wrong and finding another way. Then there's the sunk cost fallacy. It's when you stay in something that's clearly not working, but you stay because of how much you've already put in. Kind of like a kid feeding quarters into a claw machine that has never, not once, actually released a stuffed animal. You know it's not going to happen, but you put in another quarter anyway. In business, that sounds like, we've already spent 2 years on this project, we can't stop now. The time you already spent is gone, regardless of what you do next. The question you should be asking is, if we hadn't started yet, with what we know now, would we start this today? And if the answer is no, move on. And then there's two more that I think work almost as a pair. The anchoring bias is when the first number or thing that you're exposed to becomes this invisible reference point for everything that comes after it. So if someone opens a negotiation at $100,000, even if that number is completely made up, your brain anchors to it. And suddenly 80,000 feels like a deal, even if the thing is literally worth 40. Status quo bias is the quieter cousin of that. It's this deep human preference for whatever is already happening to continue. The point is that all of these biases live below the level of conscious thought, which means the only way to catch them is to ask a question specifically designed to surface them. And he argues using AI to help you generate those questions. Woods was working with a company that had a goal to go from $525 million to $725 million in free cash flow in 12 months. He had to make a first draft of a plan for discussion, and people on the team were excited, saying, "We did it. If everything on this plan goes right, we will hit our goals." He asked them, how often do plans go according to plan? And the answer is never. If every single thing in your plan has to go right to hit your goal, you don't have a plan to succeed, you have a plan to fail. So instead of helping them build a better plan to $725 million, Geoff asked them, what would have to be true for you to hit $1 billion? And a quote from the book, most people have believed their entire career that the purpose of a goal is to achieve a result. But the moment you stop viewing it as a finish line to cross and start seeing it as a compass to guide who you can become, that's when you realize it's not about hitting the number. It's about expanding what you are and what's possible. Such a huge goal forced them to ask bigger questions. What resources don't we have? What would our team need to look like? What are we saying yes to currently that we need to say no to? And by building their entire goal and all of their conversations around hitting $1 billion, they hit $828 million. And this is exactly where AI earns its place as your thought partner. Because you can take that question, what would have to be true for this to be possible, and use it as a starting point of a conversation with your AI. Have it interview you, one question at a time. Let it challenge your assumptions, poke holes in your brain, ask you what you're not seeing. You're still the one setting the vision. You're still the thought leader. But now you've got a partner that can help you think bigger than you would on your own. Most leaders, and I've been guilty of this, when someone on their team comes to them with a problem, they just solve it because it's faster. But that's kind of Rockefeller. And I think there's a clear reason why that's not the best practice. Let's say you have 3 people under you. Person 1 only takes ownership of 80% of their job. Person 2, 90%. Person 3, 95%. And they lean on you, their leader, for the percentages that they didn't own. Well, you're already giving your full 100% in your own role, but now you're absorbing their gaps too. Suddenly, you're operating at 135%, and nobody can do 135% of a job, so everything starts to suffer. Gene Rivers says it plainly: standards without consequences are merely suggestions. And a consequence doesn't have to be a punishment, it can be a conversation. Like, hey, you're incredibly smart. Let's talk through this for a moment before I give my take on what to do. What's your thoughts on a good path forward? But if you're not having those conversations at all, then you're not really upholding standards for your team to be problem solvers. The vision of this whole book when it comes to teams is actually pretty simple. What if every single person, not just you, was using AI as their thought partner to think more strategically about their role? What if everyone was a thought leader in their own lane? That's when an organization actually starts to compound. And that's the opposite of 135% on you. It's everybody owning 100% and getting much more done, both in activities and innovation. Now, before I let you go, I think there's a question a lot of people are sitting with that deserves a straight answer. Is AI a bubble? And according to Warren Buffett, right now it is. Over the last couple of years, we've seen companies mention AI in an earnings call and watch their stock price jump. That's a pattern that shows up in every major tech cycle, and it's a pattern that doesn't last forever. Warren Buffett has said recently and publicly that he's not seeing any deals right now, that everything looks inflated to him. Does that mean that it'll all collapse tomorrow or next week or next month or in the next 12 months? No. Nobody can predict what will happen tomorrow, but what you can control is how exposed your portfolio is to market volatility risk and how diversified you are. That takes an honest conversation with yourself and your investment advisor. And finally, don't be on the wrong side of history with AI. See how it can provide you value and then use it. But keep in mind that each one of us individually has the responsibility of steering AI in an ethical direction that enhances people rather than in the opposite direction that diminishes people. And if it helps, remember that the best CEOs were already applying these concepts before AI was even in the conversation, multiplying their profits by investing in how their people think. AI didn't create that playbook. It's just making it more accessible to everybody. So supercharge your people, starting with yourself, empowering them to be thought leaders rather than cogs in a machine, because that's just good business. And we're finally getting tools that match well with it. The book ends with a question, page 257, and I keep thinking about it. If most of your time at work is spent in meetings and on low-value tasks, have you ever really been you while doing your job? That question reframes everything. Because here's the reality. If you've ever heard of the 80-20 rule, it basically states that most people are spending 80% of their time on work that drives maybe 20% of their results. And the 20% that would actually move the needle, that's what keeps getting pushed to tomorrow. Not because you don't care about it, but because the other 80% never stops demanding your attention. What AI is actually offering you is a way back to that 20%, not by doing all the work for you, but by helping you think more clearly about identifying that 20% before you spend another week on the 80. Something I love that I heard Hormozi say is that, people always have fires burning all around them. And against popular belief, he just says, let them burn. Let the fires burn. Focus on the main task. So here's exactly where I'd start. Find one decision you're sitting on right now. Open the AI of your choice. Give it context. Assign it the challenger. Ask it to question your assumptions about a given focus, one question at a time, and see what surfaces as you go back and forth with it. I'm leaving my favorite prompts from the book in a Google Doc in the description below, as well as a couple of extra quotes that I love. I'm sure this isn't true for everybody, but I like the idea that the real way the majority of businesses are scaling up their value with AI is by enhancing the value of the individual people in those businesses. I'd love to get your opinions on this in the comments below, and I'll see you again next Friday.